Welcome to today's accounting lesson. My name is Sifiso Buthelezi. This lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saipono Discovery Center. Welcome, grade 12 learners. Today's topics is paper 2 revision. And then, as I've said, my name is S. Buthelezi. Grade 12 learners, the objective of this lesson will be the following. We are going to be looking at the structure of paper 2. We are going to be looking at inventory valuations in details. We are going to be looking at manufacturing accounts or cost accounting. Right, grade 12 learners, let us look at paper 2 topics. These are the following topics and the estimated approximately how much marks are we going to be getting. Right, the first topic, grade 12 learners, will be cost accounting, which may weigh around plus or minus 55 marks. Then we'll have stock valuation, which will weigh around 35 or less than 35 marks or more than 35 marks. Then we'll have budgeting, which will be plus or minus 40 marks. We will have reconciliations, which will be plus or minus 40 marks again. And then we'll have value-added tax, which will be plus or minus 15 marks. Then we'll have tangible assets, which will be plus or minus 55 marks. Now, grade 12 learners, you will be writing 450 marks tomorrow. Right. What we need to note, grade 12, is that specific identification as well as depreciation calculations for residual value, as well as the SAN, which is the sold, the old, the new calculation of depreciation, were covered in paper 1. We have seen that. We have done our paper 1. We've been writing our paper 1. So that was covered. Right. Grade 12 learners, we are going to be looking at our inventory valuation methods as our first topic of the day. Grade 12, we have 3 types of inventory valuation methods. The first method, it is called FIFO. Some other people, they call it FIFO. That is first in, first out. The second inventory valuation method, grade 12s, it is called weighted average method. We are going to be elaborating on this method at a later stage. The third method, grade 12s, which was also there in our paper 1, it is called specific identification method. Right, grade 12s, we are now elaborating on our FIFO or FIFO, which is first in, first out. For us grade 12 to elaborate on this, we are looking at the actual product that we find under first in, first out. We are seeing milk there, grade 12. This is one example of a product that can be sold or that can be valued using first in, first out. When I say valued, grade 12, remember, we are valuing the closing stock of these products. Right, grade 12s. Now, what do we mean by first in, first out? Just a quick recap, grade 12s. I know most of us have done this. We are now doing revision so that you are ready, 100% ready for tomorrow's paper. Right, on our first in, first out, grade 12, this, we are saying that the stock that we are buying first will be sold first. Again, grade 12, we are also saying, what do we mean by that? Grade 12, we mean that the stock on hand, meaning our closing stock, will be the stock that you recently bought, meaning the stock you bought last will become your closing stock. That is what we mean by stock bought first is sold first. Now, grade 12. One exam question may ask us to say, in what product or this method is best suited for which or what products. Now, this is best suited for products with limited shelf life. One example that is given to us, grade 12, would be milk, because we know, grade 12, that milk does not stay for longer. It has a limited shelf life. What do we mean by limited shelf life? We are saying that some of these goods expire quickly or they get rotten quickly. Right. Now, how do we see FIFO taking place in actual businesses? We are saying that now we are going to be proper packing these items. If you go to ShopRite or Spar or any other supermarket with good packing system, you will find that the product that they bought first will be on the front shelf, and the ones that are bought last will be at the back of those particular products. If they are selling bread, the one that will be expiring quickly, sooner, will be in front of your eyes. The one that will take longer to expire will always be put at the back. Why are they doing that? Because they are implementing first in, first out. Right, this is what we are saying. Old stock should be in the front, and then the new stock should be put at the back. This is how we see that this business is using first in, first out. Grade 12, from now on, we need to go and observe if this is happening in real supermarkets. Right, grade 12, what is an advantage now of using first in, first out? This is one of the advantages, is that now our closing stock value will become realistic compared to weighted average method. So our closing stock value is very realistic. Now, why is it realistic, grade 12? Because our closing stock will be valued using the recent prices. Right, grade 12, we are now going to go through an activity. Grade 12, I have my calculator next to me. I hope you do have your own calculator too, because we are now going to be working. We are now going to be doing some calculations. Right, grade 12, so we are looking at activity 1. On our activity 1, this activity has been taken on the November 2018 national paper. So NSC November 2018. Even after this, grade 12, you can have the paper, the question paper, and look at what we have been doing. Remember, grade 12, every time once you've attended the lesson on your own, you need to take a paper and a pen and redo everything we've been doing together, grade 12s. Right, I hope grade 12s, you are ready. Now, the name of the business here, grade 12, it is called Parker's Suitcase Shop. Now, we have Charles Parker, who sells travel suitcase. The year end is 30 June 2020. This is what we are having now, grade 12s. Right. Now, what are we required to do here, grade 12s? Let us look at that. What are we required to do? We need to indicate the following calculations. So we are doing a couple of calculations, grade 12, on the month end of 30 June or the year end of 30 June 2020. Now, grade 12, when we are dealing with inventory valuation, we need to be careful which inventory valuation method is in use by that business. One business may prefer to use weighted, one may prefer to use FIFO, one may prefer to use specific identification. They will have their reasons why they are using a certain inventory valuation method. One of the reasons, they will look at the nature of the product they are selling. If I'm selling items with limited shelf life, obviously I'll have to stick to FIFO. And also I would want to have my closing stock being realistic so that it helps me to prepare my statement of financial position. Right, grade 12, number 1. One question that we can expect tomorrow, grade 12, is that we may be expected to calculate the value of closing stock. Now, Grade 12s, we are going to go through this. I hope you are ready. We are going to be calculating value of closing stock. We'll be calculating cost of sales as well as calculating gross profit. Right. Now, 1.2 grade 12s, we are going to be providing a calculation for the stolen item. This one says Charles suspects that suitcase have been stolen. Provide a calculation to support his concern. 1.3 grade 12s. Here we are given a scenario here. They are saying Charles is concerned about the volume of stock on hand. Calculate for how long is his closing stock is expected to last. Secondly, we are going to state one problem with keeping too much stock on hand. Again, state one problem with keeping insufficient stock on hand. Now, grade 12, information given to us regarding the balances. We have our opening stock and then we have our closing stock. You can read that grade 12. For 20 units, 2,175, which is our unit price. And then we have a total of 913,500. And then our closing stock, grade 12, very, very important. If I'm dealing with FIFO, I would have to know how many units am I left with. Very important, grade 12. So knowing my closing stock is of great importance. That is the first thing I need to know when I'm dealing with my FIFO and when I'm dealing with my weighted average method. Right. Now, this is the additional information given to us about the purchases, the returns, as well as the carriage. Carriage, remember, it means transport. Money for transport. Money for delivery to the business. Right. We have our purchases for September, December, March, as well as June. June has been written in a different color. They are saying we must see returns. There are returns that took place there. These returns are there. It means the amount is no longer 450. We are going to look at that at a later stage, grade 12s. Now we have the unit price of each. These unit prices, they differ. And then we have the total. Now, grade 12s, how did they determine the total on the far right, on the dead column there, on the fourth column? How did they determine the total? I hope you know the answer, grade 12s. It says units multiplied by unit price. That is how we got the total. For an example, grade 12, they said 850 units multiplied by 2,250 for them to get 1,912,500. I hope grade 12s we are clear there. And then for the returns again, they've taken the 25 units multiplied by 3,040 and then they arrived at the total value of 76,000. Right. Grade 12, I hope we are keeping up, we are following. Right. Next one now, we are also told, given on our information, that our sales, the units sold are 3,050 and then the selling price was 4,200. So it means for us to know our sales, we will have to say 4,200 multiplied by 3,050. Then we can know our sales. We'll look at that, grade 12s, at a later stage. That is how we should determine our sales. Now, grade 12s, we are now going to recap and gain a skill on how to calculate the value of closing stock. Our focus now is on the calculation of the value of the closing stock. Now, how do I calculate the value of the closing stock now? Firstly, I'll have to look at my closing stock number. How many units do I have? So I focus on my closing stock number. That is my first step, grade 12. Remember, we need to do things step by step, so that we do not make mistakes. First thing I'm doing, I must know how many units am I remaining with. We are told, grade 12s, if you were not told, we were going to take our opening stock plus our purchases, I'm talking about the units, grade 12s, minus my returns, and then minus my units sold. Then I would know how many units am I remaining with. That should be addressed at a later stage. Now, grade 12s, for us to do FIFO, it is recommended. There are many ways of doing it, grade 12s, but we strongly recommend that we use the bottom-up method. Hope you see that, colleagues, on our top right, the bottom-up method. What do I mean by the bottom-up method? It means that I'm starting from the bottom, I am going up. Bottom, go up. Bottom, go up. That is how I am calculating my closing stock value using FIFO method. This should apply only on our FIFO for now. Right. I'm using my bottom-up method, grade 12s. How are they arriving at the 496 grade 12s? Now, we are taking the 450 because I know that my number left. I know my number left is 496. What does it tell me, grade 12? It tells me that if I'm left with 496, it means that my items that I bought last, the ones I'm taking grade 12, were never sold. It means they are definitely part of my closing stock. Now, 450, but now there's a slight problem with 450. 450 is what I've bought in June, yes. But out of that, there was something I returned back. I returned 25. How did I know, grade 12, that 25 should be subtracted on the 450? I know, grade 12, because the 25, they share the same unit price as the June. And also, I know because I am told that these returns come from the June purchases. Now, I'm going to remove the 25 because it's no longer part of my business. And then I will remain with an amount. So if I say 450 minus 25, I remain with 425. Meaning out of the 496, 425 is already gone. So if you say 496 minus 425, then we are going to remain with 71. Now, this 71 you are seeing here. Now, I'm starting from the bottom, I'm going up because I've exhausted my units that were recently bought. I now move and take on the ones above up until I consume the whole of 496. Right. Now I'm going up. If you can check up there, it is written 875, grade 12. Now, on the 875, not everything was remaining there. Only 71. The rest was sold because I need to take out only 71 out of that. Now, out of the 875, I only need 71. Now, in total, it will give me the 496. Then I know my units that I'm going to work with now. I'm going to work with the unit of June, and I'm also going to work with the unit of March. But on the unit of March, I'm only working with only 71. Right, grade 12, let us move on. Now, how do I determine my closing stock now in conclusion, to conclude everything I've been saying now? I am taking the 425. Where is the 425 coming from, grade 12? Remember, it is the 450 minus the 25. Please calculate with me, grade 12. Remember, we are not going to be watching accounting. We are also doing accounting, grade 12. We are not in some kind of a cinema. We are also doing. If I'm calculating, you are also calculating. That is how you are going to learn and master everything that will be delivered in this lesson. Right, so we are saying 450 minus 25, and then we are getting 425. Now, When I take my 425, now which units must I use? I will just go to my right hand side and check how many units are there for the 425. Now I'm using the 3040, and then this should give me, let us prove the calculation, grade 12, and then this should give me 1,292,000. So that is my part of my closing stock. That is the part of the closing stock. Now, I need the 71. Remember, grade 12, we've already worked on the 71. There is our 71. Now, 71, remember, grade 12, I want you to now go and calculate 71 multiplied by 2,930. Do that calculation, grade 12. We'll be back in a few seconds.
You are responsible for your own life, no matter how old you are. You are responsible for the things that are currently happening in your life right now. Nobody is going to push you to become a better student. Nobody is going to push you to read more, to study more. You are responsible to put in the time necessary so that you can get the results that you want in your life. So today, make sure that you are putting in the work. Make sure that you are responsible in doing everything that you want to do. Because for you to achieve more, you need to put a little bit extra work to what you are doing and keep on believing. Keep on believing and keep on doing, and you will see the success that you want.
Right, grade 12, I hope you did do the calculation. I hope you did manage to get your closing stock. We are going to solve all problems relating to FIFO closing stock calculation. This is what we are trying to solve. And it is a revision, I believe, to almost all of us, because we are going to be ready. We are ready for this grade 12. Right. 71, we are on the 71, then multiplied by 2,930. Where are we getting the 2,930, grade 12? This is the unit price for March 2020, because the 71 is coming out of the 875. We didn't have to use the whole of 875 because the rest of 875 was sold. Only 71 was not sold. And then we are getting, if we say 71 multiplied by 2,930, we are getting 208,030. Now, grade 12, we are adding the two amounts, 208,030 plus 1,292,000. And then we are getting 1,500,030. That becomes our closing stock, grade 12. So that should be our closing stock. Now, moving on, grade 12. I hope we all got that. Now, grade 12, it means now we are going to be having our closing stock there. There is our calculation. It's what we've been discussing. Now, we are on our cost of sales now. We are looking at our cost of sales. We are seeing if we do remember how to calculate cost of sales, because there may be a question tomorrow asking us to calculate cost of sales. Now, how is cost of sales calculated, grade 12? Cost of sales, the formula is being written there. We have our opening stock plus our net purchases. Now, what is net purchases, grade 12? Net purchases, it is our purchases. When I say net, I mean purchases minus our returns, minus our drawings, minus our donations, and all the other deductible items on our stock. Any item that should directly decrease our stock. That is what we are talking about. Now, remember, grade 12s, we are going to be looking at the full formula of calculating cost of sales at a later stage. But for the purpose of this activity, we are going to be looking at three items: opening stock plus net purchases minus the closing stock we just recently calculated. Now, we have all the items, grade 12, we need here. We have our opening stock, we have our purchases minus our returns, and then we have our closing stock. So I'm working with 4 items, grade 12. So I'm working with 4 items. Now, moving on, grade 12s. Now, how do I calculate my cost of sales now, grade 12s? I am now going to look at my opening stock, which is 913,500, plus my 8,384,850. Now, where is that coming from, grade 12s? It is coming from 8,468,850 minus 76. Then now I'll have my closing, my cost of sale. Remember, I would say 8,460,850 minus 76,000. Then I will get my net purchases of 8,384,850. That is for my net purchases. Right, grade 12. I hope everyone is clear there. Remember, do not make a mistake of going to that exam room without knowing how to calculate cost of sales. Next item we are looking at, grade 12, is what we have been seeing on paper 1 question papers. Calculation of gross profit. Still the same formula, grade 12s. We shouldn't be bothered. It says sales minus our cost of sales. Remember, grade 12s, sales minus our cost of sales. Now, we are given our unit sold and the unit selling price. We have our selling price and we have our unit sold. And then we also know we recently calculated our cost of sales on the previous question. Now, this is our formula. We've just said it. Sales minus cost of sales equals gross profit. Now, remember, grade 12s, I've touched on this at an earlier stage. How do I calculate my sales now? I'll take my selling price, multiply by my units sold. Units sold. Now, I'll have my 4,200 multiplied by 3,050, and then we will be getting our 12,810,000. That will be our sales. To get my gross profit now, grade 12s, should be simple. It's 12,810,000 minus my 7,798,320. And then I will get my gross profit to be 5,011,680. That will be my gross profit. Right. Now, grade 12s, we have passed that stage. We are now moving to our other crucial step. How do we calculate units stolen, units missing? We are now recapping on that skill. How do I calculate units stolen or units missing? Because we've been seeing in previous question papers, grade 12s, we've always been asked to calculate missing units or stolen units. Right, now, we are given the information. We are now familiar with the information given to us. Remember, if you are calculating units, we don't focus on the amounts. We just want the units. But if they say calculate value, then we will need the unit price and the amount, the total value. Right, now grade 12, we are given the opening stock, closing stock, and then we are given the purchases, returns, as well as there are no carriages, fortunately or unfortunately. And then we are also given our sales number. Right, now, what should be my formula to calculate missing stock, grade 12s? Remember, it should be our opening stock. I add my purchases, I subtract my returns, I subtract my closing stock, then I will get goods available to be sold, and then I will subtract what I've sold, and then I will get units stolen to be 4. Just look at that, grade 12s. Opening stock plus purchases minus returns minus closing stock, and then I subtract my sales, the unit sold, and then I will get the unit stolen. So we have 4. We can just verify our calculation. 420 plus 3,155 minus 25 units minus 496 units minus 3,050 units, and then we'll get 4 units. I hope grade 12 we have done that. I hope we are ready. If that question comes out, we know we are going to ace it. Right, grade 12s. Now, this is now, remember, you must be ready, grade 12s. There may be financial indicators that will be assessed in your paper 2 tomorrow. There will be financial indicators. One of the financial indicators we must prepare for, grade 12, will be the stock holding period. How long is the stock held in our business? Now, this is the same information we've been talking about, grade 12. Now, let us see what we need for this financial indicator. We will need to have our closing stock. We will need to have our cost of sales. And definitely, we will need our opening stock. Right, now for this question, grade 12, it was saying calculate how long is the stock expected to last. So we don't usually find this on our formula sheet. If it's there, grade 12, it will be a bonus for us, because what we see in our formula sheet will be the one for stock holding, which would say average stock divided by cost of sales times 365. Now, how do I calculate this, grade 12 now? I'm making my closing stock at the subject of the formula because the question was saying how long is my closing stock. So my closing stock becomes the subject of the formula. So I put it up as my numerator in my fraction. So there's my closing stock, and then I am going to multiply by 365 divided by cost of sales. Now, my closing stock, remember, where is this amount coming from? You still remember, grade 12? It is coming from the previous calculation we have done together. The 1,500,030. We have worked that one out using FIFO. Now, I divide by cost of sales. Where is this amount of cost of sales coming from, grade 12? It is coming from the calculations of cost of sales we have already done. Now, grade 12, if we do our calculations, remember, in accounting, we want the first step, and then the second step, grade 12, it is recommended that we make that as our final answer to save time, grade 12s. Because how this can be marked or may be marked, we can just give a mark for this, and then we give other marks there. It may be 3 marks, maybe 5 marks, depends on what an examiner is trying to achieve. Right. Now, we don't mark other 1 million steps, so it's the first step. The next step should be your answer. But if you still break it into 10 steps or 5 steps or 2 steps, it will still be fine. But no, it may consume some of your time. Right. Grade 12, moving forward, we are done with this calculation. Next option, for the very same calculation, grade 12, we can calculate it using the units. If we use the unit, we take the units that we have on hand, which is 496, and then we divide by the units we have there, the cost of sales units. Right, so we are going to say multiply by 12, and then we will get 1,95 months. Then moving on to our option number 3, grade 12, of calculating this. We can also look at our units again, but now we calculate it in days. So it's 496, which is our closing stock number, divided by 3,050 times 365 days. And then we will get our answer to be 59,4 days. Remember, grade 12, the 365 is multiplying the whole thing. Right. Now, grade 12, moving forward, we are now going to be looking at our internal control or theory questions regarding inventories. Now, we are stating one problem here, why with keeping too much stock. One problem with keeping enough stock, too much stock, and one problem again with keeping insufficient stock. Now, why we shouldn't keep too much stock, the reasons why we shouldn't keep too much stock will be the following. That our stock can become obsolete. It means it can go out of fashion. People may outgrow their taste and preferences of our stock. That is what we also mean by obsolete. Can get out of fashion. And then again, it becomes useless to our customers. You will think grade 12s that we all used to wear white jeans. But white jeans these days, we are slowly outgrowing that. We no longer wear camouflage a lot like we would have been the previous years. We used to have that a lot. So businesses who are selling white jeans, camouflage, and all of those products that used to be in fashion would now be seeing their stock being bought a little bit slower and slower and slower because it is now obsolete, it is now out of fashion, or it has just gone out of date. Second one, the staff, the customers, and other people may notice that our stock is having less movements, and then they may also decide to steal, or it puts our stock in the risk of being stolen. Right, next one, grade 12s. Also, the business will have to reduce prices. What do I mean by this, grade 12s? We go to shops, we see goods being placed on a red price. What is that, grade 12s? They are trying to get rid of that stock. If we see them in the red price. Now, this business will now be selling that at below cost, at a lower price, because now they are trying to remove that. And then they will lose on the potential profit they could have made on those products. Right, next one, grade 12s. Now, money will just be tied up in stock. So this will have a negative impact on our liquidity. Having too much stock is not good at all. Especially if I'm staying in Durban, for an example, because what we have seen, they've been facing floods, they've been facing looting. Then those guys operating their businesses there are at risk of any unrest that may take place, of any natural disaster. And they may also suffer huge storage costs. Huge storage costs. And also, they will keep on paying for insurance, claiming, paying, and all of that because the stock is just lying there. So these are all problems that will come with keeping too much stock. Right, keeping insufficient stock, grade 12 also is a problem. When a customer comes and order 100 items and we only have 2 items, then we may lose money that we could have made out of that item. And the customer will also lose confidence in us and will not come back and shop with us. And they will all do business with us. Will now go and buy somewhere else. So we are saying that we are not going to be able to meet the demand. Remember, our main aim is to sell. Now, if we cannot meet demand, then we are not doing our primary duty. Then we will lose customers. So our customer base may be affected. Right, grade 12s, we are now stepping off FIFO method. Let us go to our second method, which is weighted average method. Now, with our weighted average method, who must use weighted average? It's preferable or best suited for which product or which business. Now, if I'm selling a lot of items and I'm selling them in small quantities, I'm selling lots of stock which are in small quantities. And also these prices of these items should be almost the same. Like 2 rand, 2 rand 10 cents, 2 rand 5 cents, 2 rand 15 cents. The prices are almost the same. Then I can opt for weighted average. Now, it also used if it's going to be very difficult for us to trace the cost price of each item. What I've been saying, grade 12. Now, next one. This is the picture depicting an example of weighted average. Now, how do I calculate now my weighted average price? This is our formula. Can we look at it, grade 12? Opening stock plus purchases minus returns plus custom duties plus carriage, and then I divide by opening units plus units bought and then minus units returned. Then I get my average price. Now, grade 12, let us now look at our activity. You are provided with information. This one is Hot Wheels Pty Ltd. You are provided with information relating to Hot Wheels Pty Ltd. For the 3 months ending 30 September 2020, the business trades in motorbikes and helmets. Mike, the owner, wants to assess his stock records before any price increases during the year. This is the background. Now, what must we do here, grade 12? We must now help this owner for him to calculate the closing stock value using the weighted average. As I've said, grade 12, we must be careful which method we are using. We are using weighted average. So we are doing that, grade 12, for 9 marks. So if this question comes, then we must expect it. We must be able to do it. Now, grade 12, we are also looking at the product of helmets. Please be careful, grade 12. You may also be given 2 products. Do not confuse things. You must know that for helmets, we are using this inventory valuation method. For this product, we are using this inventory valuation method. Right. We are focusing on helmet product. Now, for helmets, now we have our information there, opening stock, and then we have our units there. Now, here's our additional information that we need to know. We returned 5 defective, meaning the damaged product or the helmet, which were purchased on the 5th of August. Meaning here in August, we have returns. So on the 30, it means I need to subtract 5. Now, moving on. We sold 85 helmets. It's important, grade 12, to know how many did we sell. We sold 85, then the price of each was 600. Now, how do I calculate my closing stock now? First step, grade 12, is for me to know what the formula of calculating my weighted average, because I must first find my weighted average price. That is what I need to do, grade 12. Find my weighted average price. We have discussed the formula already, grade 12. Please remember the formula. Right, now, grade 12, I'm now going to be taking my opening stock. If you refer back, we are given the opening stock of 15,000. And then we have our 39,300. And then minus our returns of 2,625. And then we divide that by 30, and then plus my purchases minus my return. Remember, this is my purchases, this is my return, this is my opening stock. That is OPR. Opening stock, purchases, and return. Remember, I have my OPR at the bottom. Right. Now, I will get my average price now, grade 12. My average price will become 516 and 75. 516 rands and 75 cents. Right. Now I have my average price. I'm now looking at my next step. Now, I will check now, grade 12, how many units am I left with? The units I'm left with now, they are only 12. Now I will say my average price multiplied by units left, units on hand. Now I will get my closing stock to be 6,201,000. That is my closing stock. Grade 12, we have prepared you in two things. We have prepared you on how to calculate closing stock using FIFO, and then we have also prepared you on how to use closing stock using weighted average method. Right. Moving on now. How do we do calculations of inventory? This is the most important document, grade 12. How do I use? If I want to calculate closing stock, a number of stocks, items stolen, we are starting there. Items missing, items stolen. What is my formula, grade 12, that I need to look at? I'm looking at my opening stock. I add my purchases, minus my returns, minus my sales, minus my donation, minus my drawings, and then minus my closing stock. And then I will have my units stolen or units missing. Number 2, how do I calculate my items on hand, meaning my closing number? So what I was talking about earlier on, grade 12, we will find it provided in some question papers. Some question papers, we'll have to work it out. Now, we'll take our opening stock, our purchases, plus our carriage, plus import duties, minus returns, minus closing stock, minus donation, minus drawings. And then we will have now our items that will be on hand. Now, there are 3 valuation methods, inventory valuation methods. We have our specific identification, we may have our FIFO, we have our weighted average. We've already discussed 2 of them. Specific identification, we had it on our paper 1. Now, for cost of sales, grade 12s, remember, there are 2 systems. We have the perpetual, we've done that in grade 10, grade 11, and then in grade 12, and then there's also periodic, which we also covered in grade 11. We also covered that in grade 12. And then now, how do I calculate my gross profit? We can say sales minus cost of sales, or closing stock plus sales minus opening stock plus purchases plus carriage plus custom duties. Or we can use a T account. And then now, markup achieved, we must expect markup achieved. This one is just gross profit divided by cost of sales times 100/1. Now, calculate the unit price, which is the weighted average in some cases. It's what we have been discussing, grade 12s. You can look at that. And then another item that we've been calculating, grade 12, is how long is the closing stock expected to last, as well as the stock holding. There we have done that, grade 12. Average inventory. Remember, what is average inventory? It is opening stock plus closing stock, close bracket, divide by 2. What is average stock, grade 12? Opening stock plus closing stock, divide by 2. That is average. Then cost of sales, we've already learned above how to calculate our cost of sales. Right, grade 12s will now move on. Now, internal controls over inventories. How do we take care of our inventories, grade 12s? That is the main question. How do we take care of our inventories?
I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, what do I want? Do I want to become an A student, or do I want to become an average student? Number 2, I want you to ask yourself, how do you plan on getting there? Are you going to put more extra hours, or are you going to just sleep? Number 3, who will be with you in this journey? Because it is important that we associate ourselves with students who have the same vision as us, who want to become A students, who want to put in the extra work, who want to become better at what they do. Unsuccessful people do not plan. They just let life happen to them. But successful people are planning on how they want their lives to be. And right now, you plan on how you want your results at the end of the year to be like.
Welcome back. I hope you did look at how we take care of our inventories. Right, now let us look at the possible things we can do to take care. Remember the word internal control, we're looking at ways to control our items or our workers, our stock inside the business, as well as how we conduct ourselves outside. Right, now, how do I take care in ensuring that my inventory is safe? I need to ensure that I keep it in a safe place, and the place must also be secured. This is why grade 12 that in formal businesses, they would always be having securities, they will always be locking, and then they will always be securing their cell phones. You don't find cell phones lying around anywhere because they know they can be stolen, they can get damaged, so they will put them in a certain display area. That's one example. Now, also movement of inventory. Whenever inventory is moving from the storeroom to the shelves, or from the shelves to the customer, that must be recorded. The computer will be recording that, and also there will be physical stock count, and also there will be people employed to look at that. Right, now we are going to do physical stock count to check if we've been recording correctly and we've been taking care of our items. We do physical stock count, we count how many items are we having physically. So when do we do that? We do that more often. We don't just do that once. Right, also, we also ensure that we don't order a lot. That is correct internal controls. A business that is just ordering and ordering and ordering without direction, that business has bad internal control. If you have good internal control over stock, you will always order correctly or appropriately. Why do we order? We are not ordering excessively. We are doing that to avoid any storage cost, high storage fee or storage cost is very expensive, grade 12. So we avoid ordering a lot. And also, we are doing this so that we are not facing any handling risks, such as stock being stolen, stock being damaged, and all of that. Because some of our staff members may be negligent or may be careless with our stock. Right. Again, what we'll do to ensure that our stock is safe, is secured, and is accounted for, we will ensure that we separate duties. Meaning, there will be a person who will go and buy. There will be a person who will come and record what has been bought. There will be a person who will oversee the whole process taking place. So grade 12, that is what we mean by separation of duties. We are not just going to say separation of duties and end there, because that may not give you a mark, grade 12. We must say separation of duties or division of duties, and then we elaborate from that. How do I elaborate division of duties? I will say there must be a person responsible for ordering. There must be a person responsible for issuing payments. There must be a person responsible for recording the stock and the money that has left our bank account. There must be a person who will oversee all the processes that will be taking place. This will ensure good internal control of our stock. Right, grade 12, we are now stepping off our inventories. Just did the summary of inventories. Now, grade 12, we are coming to another important topic that we may have on our paper 2 tomorrow. Now, on this grade 12, it is important for you to know the format of production cost statement. Now, let us look at that format, grade 12. Direct material, direct labor, primary cost. So if I add the two, I'll get my primary cost. And then now I add my factory overheads. So if I say primary cost plus factory overheads, I'll get my total manufacturing cost. And then I will also add my work in progress or work in process at the beginning of the year. And then I'll get my answer there. And then I subtract my closing stock or my work in process at the end. And then I will get my cost of production of finished goods. That is my note number 4. I have 4 notes under production cost statement. There is direct material, direct labor, factory overheads, cost of production of finished goods. Right. Remember, grade 12, we are adding everything except the work in process. Work in process at the end will be subtracted. The rest of the items will be added. Remember, 2 items add, 2 items add, 2 items add, and then the last one we subtract. 2 items add, 2 items add, 2 items add, and then the last one we subtract. Right, now grade 12, let us look at our November National Paper 2021. It's where we are going to be looking at our cost accounting. Now, this is Prudi Manufacturers. The information relates to the financial year ended 28 February 2021. Grade 12, I hope you are reading with me. Remember, you do what I am doing. If I'm reading, you are also reading. If I'm calculating, we are also calculating. If I'm writing, you are also writing. Now, the business produces one style of traveling bags. The owner is Prudi Sithole. Now, what are we required to do? We need to do 2 things, amongst other things that we're still going to do. We are going to be doing production cost statement, preparing production cost statement. We'll be completing it. And then we will also do an abridged income statement. This is some kind of a shortened income statement. Right, we're given our information here about stock balances, finished goods stock. There's a reason why we are giving this grade 12. Please be careful of that. This item is very useful. We are going to be talking. Remember, these 2 balances will be very useful. Do not ignore it on the paper. If you see those items, you may need them to get some items. Right, now we are given an important information here that we don't have any work in progress at the beginning, nor work in progress at the end. Right, now raw materials issued to production for issued to the factory for production. Remember, this we call as direct material. This is our direct material cost. If we see saying issued to production, issued to factory for production, that is our direct material, unless they give us other information relating to that. Information C, we are given our production wages. Remember, this is our direct labor. So this is our direct labor cost. Please note down these things, grade 12, because when we do our production cost statement, we'll have to refer back and see how much we got. Now, information extracted from the records of production wages. We are given our net. This is different now, grade 12. We are given our net wages, no longer the gross wages. Remember, we have the gross, which is before deductions. We have the net, which is after deductions. We are given the net here, 647,400, and we are given that our deductions are 22% of the gross, of which we don't know for now. Now, information D, we are having here, it says the bookkeeper calculated the following costs for the year ended 28 February 2021. These are costs already calculated. Of course, grade 12 will do some adjustments on these. And then it was discovered that she did not make the following. These are the adjustments I'm talking about. The telephone expense account of 22,400 was posted in error to the factory overhead cost. This expense relates to the office. The next item, we are now looking at this one. It says that the entire amount of rent expense of 98,400 was posted to the factory overhead. This expense should have been split in the ratio 7:2:1 between the factory, the sales, and the administration departments. Right, next one, grade 12, it says that the insurance expense of 26,400 was divided equally between the factory overhead costs and the sales department in error. 60% of this expense relates to the factory and the balance applies to the sales department. Then information E, our last information, grade 12, the total sales for the year amounted to 4,433,600. You shouldn't worry, grade 12. We are going to be breaking down all of this information, all of these adjustments that we need to do in case you didn't capture some of the items. Right, now grade 12, what skill are we trying to enhance here? We are now trying to check if, or to sharpen your skill on how to calculate our production wages or productive wages. Meaning, grade 12, we are looking for the amount for direct labor cost. That is the amount we are looking for now, grade 12. Why are we looking for this? Because we want to complete our production cost statement. Remember, this topic is all about calculating cost spent on production. Right, so we have our net. Now I'm breaking down the transactions we've already looked at earlier on. I hope grade 12s we are all going to keep up. Now, remember grade 12s, have it on the back of your mind that my gross wage is 100%. Gross wage is 100%. Now, let us look at this grade 12. Now, we are seeing that my net wage, if my gross wage is 100%, then my net wage should be 78%. How am I arriving at 78%? It is the 100% of the gross minus the 22% of the deductions. Then remember, gross minus deduction equals net. So I'm getting the 78%. Now, grade 12, let us move on. Now we are applying our UK method. Unknown over known. UK method. UK method. Now, I am looking for my gross wage now. For me to get my gross wage, grade 12 now, what am I going to do? I'm taking my net wage, multiplied by, I'm putting 100 on top because that is what I'm looking for. This is the 100, grade 12. And then I divide by the 78. Now, grade 12, someone may ask, why are we dividing by 78? Because grade 12, we have said it that the 477 is equals to 78%. Therefore, the 647,400 is equals to 78%. Right, moving forward, grade 12, we're getting the 830. So my 830 becomes my gross wage. Now I'm using the UK method. I said unknown over known. Or, this is how I can do it, grade 12. I can now take my 22, which is my total deductions, divide by my 78, which is my net, and then multiply by 647,400. Then I get my 182,600, and then I will add that back. Because for me to get the net, I subtracted. So to get the gross, I must do what now? Add the deductions back. First of all, I got my deductions. Now I'm adding them back to get my gross. So grade 12, we can use any of the two methods to get our gross. Now let us see grade 12s now. I have my answer here, 830,000. Happy grade 12? I hope we've aced it. Then I record it in my production cost statement. Remember, once I'm done calculating grade 12, I take it to my production immediately before I forget, because I need to get that mark. No matter what, I must get that mark. Remember, we are now working for marks, grade 12. Everything is about marks right now at this stage. Let us observe the protocol. Once I'm done with my calculations, I don't wait. I transfer it immediately where it's supposed to go. This is what I've done here, grade 12. Just to show you. I'm practicing what I'm preaching, grade 12. I'm putting it there immediately. Right. Moving on, grade 12. We must complete this format. We are working on completing this format of production cost statement. Next item now, colleagues. We are now going to learn to calculate our factory overhead cost. Now, the bookkeeper calculated the following cost for the year ended 28 February 2021. This is the amount. We just extracted the one for factory overhead. This is the amount before other adjustments. Let us look at those. As I've promised, grade 12, we said we are going to break down the adjustments one by one. Now, it was discovered that she did not take the following into account. First item that he did not consider when calculating the 520,000 was the telephone account. What are they saying about the telephone account? Let us read together now, grade 12. The telephone account of 22,400 was posted in error, meaning by mistake, to the factory overhead cost. We made a mistake, grade 12. We were not supposed to post it there, meaning it was added. Meaning on the 520, grade 12, there is 22,400. That was not supposed to be there. It was not supposed to be there. Now, where are we supposed to put this amount, grade 12? It is said here, this expense relates to the office. Grade 12s, I'm happy that we remember what is office. Office is what, grade 12? Office is admin costs. That is office. What is sales, grade 12? It is selling and distribution. I hope we are getting used to this English, grade 12s. Office means administration cost in this topic. Right, now, grade 12s, let us see how we handle this. What are we doing here, grade 12s? We are completely removing the 22,400 because they included it there. So it must go out. We take it out of the 520 to 8. So it goes out. The reason why it's going out, grade 12s, because it was included in error and it does not belong to this cost. This is for office. So we take it out. Right. Now it means now our telephone expense will now be less by the 22,400. Got that, grade 12s? Perfect. Right. Moving forward now, where am I taking the 22? Remember, I took it out of the factory overhead cost. I must now record it under the admin, as I've said, grade 12, that this is office. Where do we find administration cost in our statements? We will find it on our abridged income statement. That is where we are going to add this 22,400. Please keep that in mind, grade 12s. We are adding it there. Moving forward, we are now looking at the other item. Next item affecting factory overheads. Let us read together, grade 12. This one is a little bit longer. The entire amount of rent expense, that is 98,400, was posted to the factory. I want to underline the word entire. Meaning entire means what? It means the whole. Meaning all of it. It was posted only to the factory. Now, what were we supposed to do, grade 12? This was supposed to be splitted. This expense should have been split in the ratio 7 is to 2 is to 1. That is how we're supposed to split it. But what we've done, we've just taken the 100% of it, put it under factory. That is our mistake. So you must do an adjustment. How are we splitting it? We are splitting it between the factory, sales, and the admin. Now, grade 12, how do I know that I have 3 numbers there? I have 7, I have 2, I have 1. How do I know that 7 is for what? I will observe what comes first. The department that comes first is what? It is factory, meaning 7 is for factory. What comes after is 2, meaning 2 goes to my sales. What comes after that is admin. Now, admin should be 1. Got that, grade 12s? I hope we are fine. Now, next item now. Seeing how this is calculated now. For us to get the rent for the factory now, we are going to be looking at it in different ways. First way of doing this, we can now have the combination of the 2, which is 2 plus 1, we get 3. Remember, first thing if you're dealing with the ratio, 7 is to 2 is to 1, is to get a total. We get a total by adding. So the full ratio is 10. The 98,400 is the same as ratio 10. So now, I'm saying 98 minus 3 over 10 multiplied by 98,400. So that is what we are having. And then we'll get the 29,520. Now, 98,400 minus 29,520, we get the 68,880. That is our rent amount. That should have been put under factory. Right, now, for selling and distribution, because we are going to be doing our abridged income statement, we are going to say 2 over 3. Where is 29 coming from? From our calculations we have worked on above. 29,520 times by 2 over 3. Then we get 19,680. And then for our admin, it will be 29,520 multiplied by 1 over 3. Then we get 9,840. Moving on now. Alternative calculations for rent, which you may also find simple for you. Then we say 7 is for factory, so it would be 7 over 10 and then multiply by 98,400. And then we'll get our 68,880. Right, now for selling and distribution, we say 98,400 times by 2, which is our selling. Remember, 2 is for our selling, factory is 7, and then admin is 1. So 2 over 10, that is 19,680. Then for admin now, it's going to be 98,400 multiplied by 1 over 10. And then we'll get 9,840. Right, grade 12, moving on now. We are looking at the last transaction regarding this for factory. It was discovered also the following. The insurance expense of 26,400 was divided equally between the factory overhead cost and the sales department in error. 60% of this amount of this expense relates to factory and the balance relates to sales department. Meaning factory is taking 60%, then the difference that goes to selling should be 40%. Right. Grade 12, they said this was divided equally. It means it was given 50-50. They were not supposed to give it 50-50. They were supposed to give it 60-40. Right, moving on now. What are we supposed to do now? We are going to be looking at our insurance factory expense by saying 26,400 times by the 60, the correct ratio, which will give us 15,840. This is what we were supposed to get. But now, we didn't get that. Now, for sales department, we're supposed to be having 10,560. But we had the wrong amount, which was 26,400 divided by 2, because that is equal. We recorded 13,200 for both. We were not supposed to do that. Now, it means one amount was overstated, one amount was understated. Now, for the factory now, we are going to add 10% on the 50%. Where is 50 coming from? That is the equal. Remember, 50% means equal. Equally divided. That is what they said on this. Now, 26,400 multiplied by 10%, we get 2,640. Now, for my factory, it means that now, because it was understated, I'll have to record the extra amount because it is less. So I have to add the 2,640 on the 520 to 80. Right, but for my selling and distribution, which is the sales department, I'll have to deduct, I'll have to reduce it because it was overstated to 50. So I'm bringing it down to 40 by removing the 10%. So it's 2,640 less, but on the other one, it's 2,640 more. For the factory, it's plus 2,640, but for the selling, it's minus 2,640. Remember, where is that coming from? Right, now, this is what I've done here on the table for factory. That is my telephone. I have subtracted on the factory. Look at this table, grade 12. We've already talked about this. And for rent, it is why I've splitted my rent for the 98,400. And for my insurance, that is what is supposed to be there. Now, incorrect entry for the insurance was 13,200. Now, the correct entry, it is now 15,480. That is what we are having there. That is 26,400 multiplied by 60%. That is 15,840. So colleagues, grade 12, I hope we are fine there. We have corrected that. Now, next item. Now, the difference for our insurance is only 2,640. So meaning our insurance should be less by 2,640 and more by 2,640 on the other one. Right, now our rent to be deducted from our production cost statement will be 19,680 plus 9,840. We get 29,520. That is what should be deducted from our production cost statement. Now, this is my full workings now. Remember the 22,400? We've worked on that. We subtract that because it didn't belong there. And then we have the 29,520, which should also be deducted. And then we are adding the recent one that we just spoke about, the 2,640. Meaning my factory overheads now become 471,000. Now, grade 12, so moving on. This is now my complete production cost statement. Now, I have my direct material cost. We've talked about that. It was given to us. Material issued to production. Plus my direct labor cost is what has been given to me. And then prime cost. And then I get my total of factory overheads. And then remember grade 12, they said there is no work in process at the beginning and at the end. So it means that if I add, then I get 2,795,000. How am I doing this grade 12? It's 1,494,000 plus 830,000. That gives me 2,325,000 plus now I'm adding my 471,000. And then I will get my answer to be 2,795,000. That is not how we will normally do it. Remember, normally we'll add our work in process at the beginning, subtract our work in process at the end. That is what we'd normally do. Right. Moving on, grade 12, I've already said that, how I get my prime cost. Let us not forget these little things. For prime cost, it's direct material plus direct labor cost. And then for my cost of production of finished goods, that is prime cost plus factory overhead cost. Now, that's what I've already said. Please note, we must remember, there was no work in process at the beginning and no work in process at the end. Now, for our abridged income statement, grade 12, we have our stock balances. As I've told you that this is very important. Now, for our abridged income statement, remember, we must start with our sales minus cost of sales. Now, grade 12, we are going to recap on how to do our cost of sales, how to calculate our cost of sales. Now, I have this 2,795,000. That is our cost of production of finished goods. Where is this amount coming from? It is coming from my production cost statement. That is my total. Right, moving on, I have my cost of sales, grade 12. How do I calculate my cost of sales? It is my opening stock of finished goods plus my cost of production minus my closing stock of finished goods. Why am I doing like that, grade 12? It is taking us back to grade 11 ledger account of finished goods. So with the ledger account, remember grade 12, we used to have an opening balance of finished goods. We use a finished goods ledger account, which is 72,000. And then we also have our work in process here, grade 12. Remember, what is work in process in this case? This is our production cost total. This is coming from our production cost statement. And then this side, grade 12, on the credit side, we used to have our cost of sales. And then after that, grade 12 and grade 11, we used to have our closing stock balance for the finished goods. Now our closing stock balance is given to be 96,000. Now for me to get this, remember our working process is also, we also calculated it to be 2,795,000. Now for me to get the cost of sales, grade 12, I will say debit side, which is 72,000 plus 2,795,000 minus closing stock of finished goods. Then I will get these cost of sales. These cost of sales become 2,771,000. That is my cost of sales. I hope we are fine there, grade 12. We may be required to calculate cost of sales. Let us remember finished goods. Right, selling and distribution now, grade 12. So we are now trying to adjust our selling and distribution so that we can do our abridged income statement. Remember, on our information, we were given an incorrect balance, the balance before adjustment, or the amount before the adjustment. Remember, we have already addressed this one, where the 98,400 was posted to overhead, petrol overheads, and then it should have been split in a ratio 7:2:1. Now we are having factory, sales, and admin. Now grade 12 for selling and distribution, remember we have done it 2/10. Remember the total ratio here is 10, so selling is 2, so it's 2/10 multiplied by the amount 98, so 98,400, so we get 19,680. We add because it was never included there. The next item that we are looking at, insurance of 26,000 was divided equally. Remember we talked about that. It was supposed to be 60% to the factory. Now it means that we are going to calculate that 26,400 times by 10%, because we must reduce this by 10%. Since we recorded 50-50, it was supposed to be 40-60. So we are reducing it. So we got the 10% to be 2,640. So I'm reducing that balance of 224,000 960. Then now my selling and distribution becomes 242,000. This is the balance that is the amount I'm going to work with when I do my abridged income statement. Please keep that one safe. We'll use it. Next item now, administration cost is 187,760. For administration cost, remember, we had an amount that related to office but was posted to factory. With that amount, we've already removed it from the factory. Now we must add it on our administration cost. Now we are adding now. Remember, we removed it from the factory. We are adding it under admin. Now, that's what I've been saying. It was removed from the factory overhead cost. Now, next item. Remember the one for 98,400? It was supposed to be split in a ratio 7:2:1. Remember, for administration, we are using a ratio 1. Total of the ratio is 10. Now, what am I doing now? I will say 1/10 and then times by 98,400. And then I will get my answer to be 9,840. That is 1 divided by 10 multiplied by 98,400. Then it's 9,840. And then now I close brackets because I'm done with my adjustments, and then I get my total that I'm going to use for my average income statement to be 220,000. Then I move to my average income statement. Let us look at the full format. Sales, cost of sales, gross profit. There we have these items. We've already calculated them. My selling and distribution, 242,000, and then my 220 for administration cost. Now, if I add my selling and distribution cost with my administration cost, I will get my total of other expenses. That will be 462,000. Now I will say gross profit minus other expenses. I will get my net profit to be 1,200,600. Right. Then moving on, we are on our activity 2. We are looking at our break-even point, as well as other unit cost calculation. Now for this one, we are given the business manufactures perfumes and shampoo. The owner, Marie Claassen, has compared the profits she earned over the past 2 years, 2019 and 2020. We must identify one variable cost of each product that was not well controlled. Note that the inflation rate is 6%. Code figures in each case give a solution for the problem identified. So it's 6 marks, and then provide a calculation to prove that the break-even point units for perfume is correct. That is 4 marks, and then we calculate the break-even point and the level of production of perfume. State 2 points with figures. Comment on that. We will be commenting on that, and then 4 marks. Right, now, response for this one. One variable cost that was not well controlled. Now, we are looking at the direct labor. Why now are we saying direct labor? Check the direct labor. It has increased from 30 to 40. Meaning that means it's not well controlled. If it has decreased, then we would say well controlled. What do I mean by that? It means we are spending too much than we spent the previous year. That's what I mean by well controlled and not well controlled. Right, grade 12, this is what we are saying. And then also the selling and distribution increased from 10 to 18. Where is that, colleagues, from the grade 12 from the information? We are having it, it's 10, and then it's moving to 18. So it has increased. Now, what is the solution for that? Remember grade 12 on this question. You must code, and then you must also write figures. We are seeing some grade 12s, they will just quote and say direct labor increased. You don't get full marks. You must say direct labor increased from 30 to 40, or increased by 10 rands, or by 33.3%. Right. Now, that will be 10 over 30. Right. Now, moving on, what is the solution for the increase in direct labor? For me to ensure that it doesn't increase again, I'm going to monitor overtime. Maybe they've used so much overtime. They are not working during their normal hours. And then I will also set targets. How do I set targets? I will say by end of the week, you should have produced 20 tables. And then I train workers also to improve efficiency. Some workers are just playing around. Some workers are working, but they're having challenges. So I will train them to ensure that they are efficient and productive. Now, again, how do I ensure I improve my selling and distribution to be well controlled? I'm going to monitor advertising. And then also I will check the use of delivery vehicles. And then I will also track these vehicles when they go and deliver. Right, next one, grade 12. We are looking at shampoos. For shampoos now, we are seeing that the direct material increased from 15 to 25. It increased by 10. This means it is not well controlled. How do I come up with a solution to this? I'm going to change a supplier. I'll look for a nearby supplier. Maybe I'm ordering in Gauteng and I'm in KZN. So I'm ordering from far. So I will look for a local supplier so that I don't travel for long. Or I look for a cheaper supplier. Maybe where I'm ordering, it is too far. But when I'm looking for a cheaper supplier, I must still maintain the quality, the best quality. And then I will also monitor wastage. Maybe my employees are wasting material when they are producing. So I'm going to monitor that. And then I'll look for alternative transport and storage. Maybe that's why my cost is high, because I'm spending too much on transport. And then I will also buy as required or to orders received. Then moving on, we are now looking at the calculation of break-even point. Now, for the calculation, we are given that information. We are calculating break-even point for perfumes. So we are focusing on perfumes. Right. For that calculation now, we are given the total units produced and sold. Break-even point is given to us as 26. So we must prove 26,250. We must prove it. Now, grade 12, my formula for break-even point, you need to remember, it should say total fixed cost divided by selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. And then it means I'll have my 1,102,500. Where am I getting that? It is my number of units produced multiplied by my fixed cost per unit. Then divide by selling price and variable cost per unit. And then I've proven that. Obviously, the 26,250 will not have a mark this time since I am proving. Then grade 12, comment on the break-even point. Now, what do I look at when I commented my break-even point? I must look at my total units produced for 2 years. I must look at my break-even point for 2 years. And then I comment. These are things that I must have before I can comment on break-even point. Now, these are the 2 points I may have on my break-even point. The first point, in 2020, the business produced 3,750 units above the break-even. How did I get the 3,750? I took my break-even, my units produced minus my break-even point. Meaning I produce more units. If I produce above break-even point, that is good. If I produce below break-even point, that is bad. Anything below break-even point is bad. Anything above break-even point produced, it is good. It means I covered my cost and I made profit on, it's possible for me to make profit on extra item. So I made a profit on 3,750. Remember grade 12, what do I look at if they say I must comment on break-even point? I'm looking at my units produced and my break-even point. Now in 2019, I made a profit on 14,800. And then how did I get that? It's 35,000 minus 20,200. But in 2020, I only made a profit on 3,750. Now, my break-even point increased from 20,200 to 26,000. But the production decrease. This is not looking good. Break-even point must decrease every time. Production must increase. I'm saying break-even point, an ideal situation, I want my break-even point to increase all the time, to decrease all the time, but I want my production, my produce unit to go up. Break-even point must go down, production must go up, down and up. Right, moving on. There is all grade 12s, but before that, I just want to stress these items. Break-even point should increase. Break-even point, they are saying it has increased here from 20 to 26. So, and the produce units have decreased. So, if I may be asked, should I be satisfied with this? I would say no. I can be satisfied. The answer can also say yes, because I produce more. One learner may say no, because my production decreased, and also my break-even point increased. So this means not satisfied. The last point is justifying why am I not satisfied. But the first point is justifying why am I satisfied. But the actual answer should just say not satisfied. Right, grade 12s. We have come to our last slide. Thank you for watching this lesson. See you next time. Goodbye. I think we are done.